As promised, can the drakes survive in Monster Hunter? I'm gonna do it the same way, composite region for all of them, but obviously, specific areas. Now, the drakes in God of War are actually pretty interesting, as they were like the top tier super predators of the respective regions that they're in, which was actually Vanaheim and Alfheim, which I find pretty interesting, and this could actually make this easier for the drakes. Now, these guys were actually so destructive that they were actually eating just about everything, and they were actually like threatening to cause extinction events in Vanaheim, and not sure about Alfheim, but it's very possible. So, with that being said here, I do also wonder, where do these drakes come from? The Slaghorn, the Cragjaw, and the Gravel Belly all will be thrown into the Monster Hunter verse, by the way, with a stable population of genetic diversity. Now, in terms of the areas that they reside in, for starters, let's talk about the Slaghorn and the Cragjaw. In Vanaheim, there are actually some decent areas. There's a rocky plateau area with a few forests and trees, and then there's actually just like a whole greater forest after that. Absolutely, in all honesty, it's actually interesting. Then there is an area where it's kind of like swamp-like in general. So this does mean the Cragjaws and Slaghorns do prefer forest-like areas, rocky outtops, or rocky plateau areas, and then you also have some forests like rainforests, like swamps and stuff like that. So pretty much they would actually function pretty great in the environments in Monster Hunter, especially the ones far removed from like human settlements and stuff like that. As for the Gravel Belly, however, they result in the Alfheim desert region, and they pretty much reside far out the city or far out of the climbing area or the more steep climbing ranges of the Alfheimian or the Alfheim desert plains and stuff like that. So they may love, flat, somewhat gorge like areas is what I'm trying to say. Flat desert like areas and some gorges and stuff like that. So there are plenty of areas in Monster Hunter that would definitely fit them. But anything that has to do with like overall climbing may not be in their, best capabilities. So something like the Arshard Cliffs, which basically have like a multiple plains or areas for like climbing, basically an area where you have to climb in general in order to get around. Yeah, that would not be suitable for something like a Gravel Belly or a Slaghorn. So with that being said, can these drakes, not the ones that were abused by Kendrick, actually survive in Monster Hunter? And believe it or not, they would actually be, I would probably say, super predators in all honesty. Probably extreme super predators in my opinion, or super duper looper predators, right? And keep in mind, they would likely be able to hunt just about anything in the environment. Considering the fact that they were able to hunt everything in their environment, this would include ogres and wolvers, for crying out loud. With me in the last video saying that the only thing that could likely contend with them will likely be something like Boltoon or any alpha wolver that would likely have a chance. So this means monsters like Bomburo, Duramboros, and likely even Gravios, as they do visit the swamp-like areas on occasion, probably to breed and definitely lay their eggs and stuff like that with Basarios. But these guys would absolutely be in immediate danger, as the Crag Jaws can simply use likely earthquake manipulation, because they are able to cause like these miniature quakes, to actually be able to unearth and even find some of these monsters, and even being able to trip them up if they try to retreat. In terms of the desert-based environments, this also means Rustarambros isn't safe, Baroth isn't safe, and even Diablos. I know it's actually kind of crazy because, I always put Rustarambros or Duramboses in general as Devil Joe killers. But keep in mind, they aren't even safe from these guys, as they would also fit into the Apex tier. Now, in terms of the breeding habits of the Cragjaws or the Drakes in general, we do not know anything about them. With the Wolvers, it was pretty simple, They were basically like wolves or werewolves and stuff like that, or, similar to like dire wolves, where they'll actually hang in packs and take care of their young and have a community for it, right? But with things like the Corpse Eaters, which are, I guess you say, kind of like bird-like in general, so they may have the same habits where a male will claim a stretch of territory and then come back and help the female with the nest. The Drakes really don't have any resemblance to a natural animal, albeit they could likely function like a Komodo dragon, building dens or layers for their eggs, and then after a certain while of guarding them, simply leave them. Keep in mind this has been a similar thing in Monster Hunter with other creatures like a, what's it called? Brachydios. So those kind of creatures actually do lay their eggs and then simply abandon their young for good. They lay their eggs, they'll guard the nest for a little bit, and then they'll simply say, yeah, y'all got it. You got a head start in life in general. So they'll pretty much do that, which actually is pretty helpful considering brachydios do have a stable population, meaning they may lay a good amount of eggs before abandoning them. But back to the food sources in general, keep in mind other carnivores would be on the menu. The drakes did not care or did not discriminate about what they ate. And believe it or not, this might actually be a good thing, considering the fact that drakes will likely, not take care of the young, meaning that young drakes or young slaghorns, gravel bellies, and stuff like that would be vulnerable to other predators. But as they grow older, they'll likely prey upon these same predators. So it's kind of a win-win situation here. Both sides of the populations actually do get kept in check. But keep in mind, this also means for like adult drakes and stuff like that, they'll be preying on things like Rathaloses if they get too close to the ground or try to attack them. Brachydios, Glavinus, Tigerex, Nargacuja, Najarala. All of these creatures or all these top tier apex predators are on the menu. There is no stopping them. There is no deterring them. They like you and they want you. And they just gonna do it the hard way. They don't care, all right? They're going to eat you regardless. And keep that in mind too, as drakes will likely maybe eat each other. I'm not too sure about it, is there's no really confirmed cannibalism for their species, but considering Komodo dragons are willing to do it, yeah, I also say that as well. However, they could also be beneficial prey animals for other creatures, such as Garen Bazuru, who is capable of, well, utilizing herbivores to prey upon carnivores as well. Or, uses the herbivores to prey upon the stronger and much larger carnivores as well. So that kind of fits it there. So this does mean that the gravel bellies, the slaghorns, and crag jaws would ultimately have a pretty decent diet and likely a decent living as well. Now, do I think there would be trouble for the guild? Yes. Yes, I do. You see, the thing about it is they don't really discriminate about what they eat, and they're known to be able to destroy villages. Meaning that not only would hunters have to be called in, likely frequently to deal with them, but likely to deter them from villages as well. But this also means their competition would be in the higher tiers or the Elder Dragon level monster class. Things like Devil Joe, Abyssal Lagiacris, things like Rajang, Espinas, Magna Mallow, and Basilgoose would all basically be the perfect competition for these guys. And in all honesty, I don't see another reason why they wouldn't. They have all the capabilities to basically fight against all these monsters, right? So, Espinas, obviously not the best thing to try and go for and eat. It's covered in poisonous quills, and it's just as strong as any other Elder Dragon, and has even beaten the Elder Dragon Kuchal Dayor before, and was one of the first few recorded evidence of Elder Dragons, fighting against other monsters. So this means that Rajang and Kirin, really wasn't discovered before Espinas and Kuchal Dayor. Speaking of Rajang pretty much would basically be a self-defense encounter in all honesty. I mean, him having to literally fight against a monster, just defending himself, kind of the same situation as Devil Joe. However, Rajang would likely have to adapt its lightning a bit more and likely have to do much more agilic combat maneuvers and likely reinforce its steel-like punches a lot more. And this is because, again, gravel bellies are extremely tough and durable, and their earthquake manipulation, or their seismic manipulation, if you will, is definitely going to be some trouble. However, I think probably the fiercest competition will definitely be Devil Joe. Both of these guys would view each other as prey, or both species would view each other as prey, meaning that these fights is literally a winner eats all. It don't matter if they got a kill, don't matter if they already, got something there. Somebody got to eat, and somebody gonna get eaten, whether they like it or not. It's nature. You're not gonna, have two super predators competing against each other, and they both don't really discriminate about what they eat. Devil Joe would even eat its own species if it has to, and I don't think the Crag Jaws or Slaghorns or even the Gravel Bellies are far above that unless it's the, mating season and stuff like that. Same with Devil Joe. Now, again, we really don't know the habits of these Slaghorns, these Crag Jaws, and these Gravel Bellies. We know that they're very destructive and that they're very powerful creatures. The ultimate creatures or the ultimate predators in their environments. Doesn't matter if, you got ogres there, they'll get eaten. Wolvers will get eaten. With probably alpha wolvers being the only ones that can pretty much keep them in kind of check here, or at least contend against them. So this does mean that there are a couple threats to them as well. For starters, considering they are capable of devastating ecosystems if left unchecked, or at least, left, what's the word I'm looking for? Not unchecked, left kind of themselves here. Or maybe that is kind of the same thing, but whatever. But, yeah, this does mean Elder Dragons may get involved here, meaning that Malzeno and Nergigante would likely have to take up hunting them. Nergigante is going to get a meal out of it regardless, but again, he'll probably have to be actively hunting down these drakes a lot more just to make sure that they don't disrupt the environment. Same with Malzeno. It's a meal either way, but still, you're going to have to do your job here. And then we also have Nakarkos. Now, Nakarkos is actually one of the few creatures I think would actually benefit from eating the drakes. It might actually be the best one to kind of counteract them, considering we somehow know they do go on land and actually do feed on things like Brachydios, Glavenuses, and Uragons. Now, this will probably keep the Slaghorn and Cragjaw populations from exploding, as well as the fact that they may not take care of their young like a Komodo dragon. This means that it is overall balance. However, for the gravel bellies, the ones that like to live in the desert, I think Obita Tarsus would actually become more active, especially with a much more chaotic prey available, or prey source, available. And this would mean that, well, they would just have to hunt more. So at the end of the day, I do think this video is a bit shorter than most of my survival ones. I think it's only like 12 to probably 13 minutes long. Do I think the drakes survive in Monster Hunter? Yes. Yes, they do. They have all the capabilities that they need. Their earthquake manipulation makes them vastly more dangerous than they should. They also have the capability of rivaling every apex in the region and even viewing them as prey, essentially making them as a Devil Joe. But that's going to be all for today, you guys. Please comment down below, like and subscribe and share with your friends. This is Legendary Grimlock, and I hope you guys have a blessed day.